Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. Episode 122. We got a good lineup ahead of UFC on ABC4. First up, we're going to be joined by one half of the main event in Jairiznho Rozenstruik to preview his main event fight against Shelton Almeida. This is a really intriguing matchup. UFC is really pushing Almeida. He's not a true heavyweight. He's just a light heavyweight that doesn't really want to cut weight, and he's having success at heavyweight, so he doesn't really see a need of cutting back down to 205. But Rozenstruik thinks this is a fight that's really going to send back to 205. He thinks this is his first real test. Obviously, Almeida's beaten Shamil Abdurhimov, Anton Turgulj in a fight he took on short notice. Anton took on short notice, and then beat Parker Porter, and then beat Danilo Marquez at light heavyweight before going up to heavyweight. So obviously, he hasn't fought a real true top 10, top 15 heavyweight, which Rozenstruik thinks his power and size is going to play a big role. He has a lot of confidence he'll knock out Almeida and really derail the hype train there. We're then going to be joined by Matt Brown to preview his fight against Court McGee. This is a very fun fight, kind of an OG fight, and one that even Matt's surprised hasn't happened before. He thinks, like, if you look at those two, he thinks a lot of fans think this is the rematch, but Matt's back in action. He's really looking forward to this fight. Matt's coming off that split decision loss to Bryan last March in 2022 in a fight he thought he won. Court getting knocked out last time out by Jeremiah Wells. Matt is really looking forward to this fight, just an OG fight, and he thinks it could be of the fight of the night and a very exciting one. We're then going to be joined by Alex Morono to preview his fight against Tim Means. This fireworks all over it. Alex Morono knows Tim Means isn't one to back down. Alex is there to stand and trade, so he's really looking forward to this one and really looking forward to fighting these well-known guys. That's what Alex really wants to be. He's not too worried about getting in the rankings or fighting for a belt. He just wants to have fun. He said he's making a lot of money fighting right now and coaching, and that's what it's all about. Is just for him is just making money and kind of having a lot of fun fighting, and which is why he wants to fight these guys like Tim Means. We're then going to be joined by Cody Stamann to preview his fight against Douglas Silva D'Andrade. Should be a fun one here with Cody coming off that win. He knows it wasn't the most exciting fight, but he knows Douglas Silva D'Andrade doesn't back down. Even if he's hurt, he's still dangerous. Who he knows the way Douglas fights, he can't be in a boring fight. So he's really looking forward to testing his skills against Douglas. And then we close things out talking to both Gabe Green and Bryan Battle about their fight. Gabe hasn't fought since that loss to Ian Gary back in July of 2022. So he was obviously supposed to fight Jake Matthews on this card. Matthews pulled out. Battle steps up. So good chat with both these guys about where they're at and what they think a win does here. But both of them are exciting, a pretty fun fight. And both are confident they can knock each other out. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC heavyweight Jairiznho Rozenstruik, who's headlining another UFC event. Jairiznho, how's it going, man?
Good, man. What about yourself? It's doing great.
I'm doing well. The first thing I want to touch on is the main event. Like, you were booked on the card. Everything said that it was Johnny Walker, Anthony Smith is the main event. Like, what kind of happened for you guys to now be the main event?
I really don't know what happened, but what I understand is, for me, is a big deal. Another headlining. My name is out there. I can work on myself, and it's a big fight. So I'm looking positive and forward to May 13th.
Do you prefer doing the 5 rounds and being the main event then?
For me, it's 5 rounds or 3 rounds. But if you have in a headline, it means a lot. Your name is out there. People get to know you more. It's going to be on ABC. There's a lot of factors there. So I'm looking forward to it. And of course, I'm happy that I'm going to be in action again. And I can't wait till May of 13th.
And back in front of fans as well. Like, I know your last one was in front of fans. What's that like for you to still kind of keep fighting in front of fans?
I mean, it's awesome. You get hype. All the fans get hype when people get to witness live how the fight's going. So I think it's a really good thing.
Your last fight, like, obviously 23-second knockout. Like, were you surprised it kind of took this long for you to get booked? As I imagine you probably wanted a quick turnaround after that one.
I mean, I wanted to be turned around earlier this year, but I think everybody was booked. A couple of fighters was injured, and now I got this opponent, Shelton Almeida. I think it's a big thing. He's a hype. He has a lot of hype behind him. We heard a lot of people talking behind him, so it's gonna be a good one.
With Shelton, like, what have you made of his UFC run? Like 4-0. Obviously hasn't fought like any ranked guys other than Shamil, but I think Shamil, or he might not even been ranked at that time. But what have you made of his run? Because he's looked impressive, the guy, but again, he's not fighting those ranked guys.
I mean, he wins. As long as you win, it's promising. Right now he's gonna face me. I'm a different kind of fighter, and I'm looking forward to putting heat on him and win this fight. That's the only thing that counts for me.
Were you surprised to get Almeida, or was this someone you thought you might have to fight next?
I was kind of surprised because I was thinking like I'm making my back. I'm working my way back up. So fighting a higher ranked guy makes a lot of sense. But if the UFC won this fight, I mean, I work for the UFC, right? If they won this fight, then this fight's gonna happen. And I work hard to win all my fights. So even for this one, I work really hard. Even he's ranked behind me, and this for him is an opportunity, and for me, even bigger opportunity to show the UFC and remind the referee division that don't call me out. I'm right there. So winning this fight means a lot, and it's gonna be a big statement.
And then this is what I was trying to think. Your sixth UFC main event, or fifth or sixth, something like that. Like, is
I
that
think this will be make the six.
yeah? Is that pretty surreal for you that like this was only your 12th fight in the UFC and half them have been main events?
I mean, it's the success, right? What are you made of when you're winning fights? You get people exciting, and the UFC believes in you, so they give you main event fights, and they even give you more chances.
And then it is a pretty good card and on to ABC as well, which is obviously a massive channel in the States. Like, does that add anything to it of like headlining over a bunch of these big names and being on ABC?
It definitely it makes a big change, and people get to know you more now. I'm based in Florida, doing different kind of things, and it's time that people know who you are and recognize you for what you've been doing for the sport. So I definitely think it makes a lot of change, and that you're being recognized for what you're doing.
With Jailton, he's obviously a very good wrestler. Like, do you just expect him to shoot pretty early? Like, I have a hard time thinking that he's going to want to stand with you.
I definitely think that he doesn't bring anything different to the table than my other opponents. Everybody want to take me down, working on that takedown, and I've been working on that defense as well. And yeah, we're gonna see what he brings. And yeah, I mean, it's not different. It's the same thing all the time.
I remember when we talked, I think it was before the Blades fight, you said your wrestling was about a 3 or a 4. Like,
Yeah,
what do you think it's at now then? Because it's been a couple years since that fight.
I definitely think it's better. In the blade fight, some fuck ups still happen,
Mhm.
but you know how it is. You get a chance to learn it, and I got to try it right away in real life. So um, I'll don't give I will not give it a number right now,
Mhm.
but I definitely think I move forward for what I was, and this fight will be we will rank it after this one. Like we will give it a number after this one because it's a big test. Let's see that.
Do you think people are overlooking you or like underestimating you in this fight? Like
I,
Jilton's a big favorite. Like he's the has all this hype. Like everything I seen, like people just think like he's gonna run through you and finish you in like that first round.
easy. Now I definitely think people overlook me, and yeah, for me it's a job to give it a twist around and see that yeah, I mean there's a statement for what's coming.
Your power obviously is a massive thing. Like we saw what you did to Dawkins in like 20 seconds. We saw what you did to Sakai and like Overeem, and like you have all these early finishes. But that Overeem fight, being able to finish late, like how much confidence does that give you in these main events where you still have that knockout power into that fourth, fifth round if it gets there?
I always be confident about my cardio because I work hard on it. It's one of my things that I'm really working on it. Like my cardio's got to be there for whatever. You might get in trouble, you might get in deep water, so you got to survive and then come back stronger. So that's one of the things that I really work hard on.
What do you think Jailton's cardio will be like? Because this is a guy that hasn't gone very far. Like I don't think he's ever gone 5 rounds. Most of his fights at the UFC end early, so like we haven't really seen what he's like if the kind of like he's the one, like if the going gets tough for him.
I don't know. I never saw that, but I definitely will not make it easy for him. And I'm looking to finish this guy, man. So I don't know how people see it, but for me, it's a big fight. and definitely bring the heat on him.
How important do you think those first couple takedowns will be? Because if you stuff him and like make him strike the like, I think obviously his confidence will have to go down quite a bit.
Definitely, you know how grapplers thinks. He try to take you down 3, 4 times. You stop him, he start thinking different. So it's for me. The job has got to be there. We start in my favorite position, stand up. So any mistake he make, I fire on him. I can drop him. You know. So
Who are the main guys you're working with? It like obviously a ton of good heavyweights, light heavyweights at ATT, but like for this one, who are the main guys you're working with?
we're working with all the guys, all the heavyweight, all the jiu-jitsu guys, all the grapplers. I mean, ATT have a lot of heavyweight right now. I think it's a list of most. I think 11 or 12.
Mhm.
And then we've been working hard and pushing the pace, especially with grappling also. So it goes.
How do you kind of see it playing out then?
Nah, it's be playing out all the time the same way. He will go for the takedown. He will shoot, reshoot, and do his thing, and I'll be there stopping him. And boom, I hit him eventually with one of the one of the fires. So he will always do what everybody does: try to take him down, try to strangle him, and then yeah.
Do you think the knockout could come pretty early? Like you could catch on one of those takedowns? Do you think it is going to be a bit later?
No, soon as I touch his people, they go down. I don't think he has an iron chin. He makes a mistake, I touch him, fight's over. It's pretty easy. That's how I see it.
How much? I know it's obviously a different opponent, but how much do you look? I'm not sure if you have, but like what Derek Lewis did to Curtis Blades, where he was throwing like knees and uppercuts, because I think like that's obviously a big weapon you can use when he's shooting in, because his head is ducked, and like Lewis obviously caught Blades at that uppercut. Like, is that something you're working on? Is like throwing those uppercuts and knees for when he
Definitely
shoots in?
work on those things, but you cannot rely on one thing. You know,
Mhm.
I gotta keep my style going. You know, so it's been an overall game, being in trouble, without trouble, and yeah, as I mentioned before, any error, any mistake, this guy goes down.
Oh, you knock out Shelton. Like, I think this is one of the biggest wins of your career, especially how much the UFC hyped him up. So, like, where do you think that, like, where do you think that puts you in this division?
I definitely think if I stay where I'm at, like when I beat him, I think if I can get one more fight on the top, so bring myself back up in the top five, that makes a lot of sense for me. But for me right now, I'll beat this guy. If I can get another ranked guy higher than me that can bring me in the top five, that's what I'm looking for.
Do you have anyone in mind of who you want to fight? Because, like, top of the heavyweight division, like, there's a lot of fun fights for you. Like, obviously, there's Aspinall, there's Blade, or Tai Tuivasa. Like, obviously, we're doing this the day before Blades Pavlovich, so maybe one of those guys. Like, is there anyone that you want to fight, or is it just kind of anyone ranked above you?
For me, anyone that ranked above me that's close to the top five, that makes sense. Right now, the heavyweight fight of the upcoming weekend of tomorrow,
Mhm.
that's gonna be really interesting. And yeah, I think Pavlovich got it.
Couple more things we haven't talked obviously since John Jones won. Was that a surprise that he beat Gone, or or was it more of a surprise that like how quickly he did it?
I'm more surprised how quickly he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fast. Yeah,
It all signs kind of point to him and Stipe later this year. Like, who do you think would win that one?
I don't know. I don't care. Long as the champ is fighting, that means something is happening. And then yeah, I can get a chance of it.
I was just saying, like, what is the goal then for you this year?
For me, I definitely want to fight. After this one, I want to fight one more, and if it's possible, another one. But for me, this one is really important. Win this fight. That's the goal right now. And after this one, I really want to fight at least one more.
And just final thing, like we haven't talked either since Ngannou was like fought out his deal and like the UFC let him go. Like, is that disappointing for you that like that rematch probably won't ever happen now? Because like everything Dana White says is they're not ever bringing him back. Like, is that disappointing that you'll never get a chance to fight him again?
I don't care. I mean, he's not the champ anymore. If you're the champ, we're chasing you. If you're not the champ, then there's no sense fighting him. It's a loss. Always hurts, But why should I want that fight so bad if I can chase the dream, be the UFC champ one day?
Well, Jairiznho, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me. All right.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. Till next time.
All right, we're jumping UFC welterweight Matt Brown, who's back in action on May 13th. Matt, how's it going, man?
Very, very good.
Obviously been a bit since we saw you, like March of last year. Like, what kind of was the reason for this time off then?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. So, just the injuries.
Mhm.
You know, I was actually injured going into that fight, but so I just had to clear that stuff up so that I didn't have to go through that situation again.
That fight against Bryan, like, what do you take away from that one? Like, super close fight. Like, I know a lot of people thought you should have won. So, like, what do you take away from that one, especially fighting in Columbus at home?
Well, I certainly thought that I won. I think everybody thought that I won. I'm really surprised I didn't get that, but there wasn't a lot to take away. Like, I thought I did really well. I thought I performed well. I think my cardio was a little bit off there at the end, but like I said, I went into the fight injured. I didn't even get to train for about almost a month before the fight. You know, I was laid up due to the injury. So I guess if there's a takeaway, it's, you know, what my coach has been preaching a lot is, like, you know, number one priority, let's get to the fight healthy and in shape, and everything else take care of itself. Like, you know how to fight, and you can go in there and bang with anyone. So let's get there healthy and not have to deal with that kind of stuff.
And then getting the offer to fight Court McGee, like, I had to double check that you guys hadn't fought before, just because, like, it seems like this is a guy that you guys should have fought a long time ago. So, like, how kind of happy are you to fight a fellow, like, kind of veteran like Court?
I think that's what a lot of people did. They went and checked, like, you sure these guys haven't already fought? Because, yeah, we've been around for about the same amount of time. Which season of Ultimate Fighter was he on?
He was 11.
11. So, yeah, so he's a little bit after me, a couple seasons after me. I was 7. Yeah, we've been around a long time, and it's pretty cool, man. You know, we both come from a similar place. Like, we both overdosed, and it's at one point in our lives, you know, we went to the other side, and we've been back, and we've made a successful career in the UFC, at least a long career. Neither one of us been champion or anything, but you know, we put in time. We've both been grinders. We've both been strong veterans that are going to put a hard fight against anybody in the world. We both fought a lot of top guys, and so I'm excited, man.
What have you made of Court's, like, last little bit in the UFC? Because you guys have actually fought, like, pretty similar opponents recently. Like, you both fought Diego, you both fought Carlos. Like, you guys have been fighting some pretty similar guys.
I didn't even pay attention. I didn't even know that, but yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, we've been on kind of similar career paths. I think we're pretty similar in ages. I might be a little bit older, but yeah, I mean, we're going to go and put on a good show, man. And I'm going to go in and show the world that, like, you know, I'm still out there, man. I can still do this shit, and I can still do it as good as I ever have. And, you know, I'm going to make a statement with this fight. You know, I never really get into retirement talk, like whether it's going to be my last or whether I'm going to do it again. But on this one, I'm going to show that I could do many more, whether I choose to or not.
Yeah, just kind of just getting into that, because I actually thought I saw a lot of people thinking your last one was going to be it for you, especially just being in Columbus. And, like, it seems like that's been the case over your past couple, is like, oh, this one's definitely Matt's last one. Oh, this one's definitely Matt's last one. Like, do you think you're going to be one of those guys that, like, announces it before the fight and, like, gets that kind of that whole ovation for the fight? Or you just going to kind of sail off in the sunset and kind of announce everything after?
Yeah, I guess I kind of already did that once, right? When
Yeah.
I fought Diego, I was planning on retiring, and I just couldn't stay away, man. I love this shit way too much, and it's just I just love the sport, man. I love training, I love fighting, and I just haven't found anything else that piques my interest like that. You know, like, there's other things that I do at businesses, and I probably could retire if I wanted to, you know, financially, but just nothing gets me out of bed in the morning and gives me a sense of purpose like this does. So, yeah, it's probably just going to be, Yeah, I can tell you right now, like the retirement is going to be due to injuries.
Mhm.
Like that's the only thing that really holds me up. Like I'm strong. My skills are good. Um, still improving. Still loving this shit all the time. Still motivated. Still staying disciplined. But the injuries, man. Um, when my kids have baseball games and football games and stuff, and I can't even go, or when they're at the gym and
Mhm.
I'm limping around, or when I'm bedridden for days or weeks at a time, things like that. When it starts affecting their lives, that's when I certainly have to call it quits. But in the meantime, it's not. So let's go. Let's keep going.
With this one too, like back in front of fans as well, like how big of a relief was it for you that they put you on a card in front of fans and on ABC? Because I know you only had what, like one or two at the Apex. I know you weren't the biggest fan of it.
Is it on ABC? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. This one's on ABC too.
Oh, okay. Like the network ABC.
Yeah,
Oh shit! I didn't even know that they were doing them on ABC.
yeah. You had the Carlos Condit fight was the first one they did on ABC, and they've been doing like one or two a year every. Like I think it's been one or two a year basically.
I didn't even know that was on ABC. That's pretty cool. Okay, so okay, um, yeah, dude. But to be in front of fans, God, yes, because I did the Apex once, and then I did Jacksonville and Abu Dhabi, and not having fans, it's a bummer, man. It's just such a different experience, and I had experience with it before on the Ultimate Fighter, but it's a completely different.
Mhm.
It's really a different experience though, because like there's such a sense of purpose when you're there, right? There, like there's like you're fighting. For one, I don't know. It's just different when you're on the Ultimate Fighter versus being in a dead arena, and the fans fuel me, man. So I I, I hated not fighting with fans. I absolutely hated it. It almost made fighting not fun, but fighting is still fun.
With this one, like Courts, like being just an OG, like a guy that likes to strike as well. It's like, how do you kind of see it playing out? Because it seems like one that could be a pretty fun fight for the fans.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about Court is you don't really know if he's going to be that guy that comes in and just shoots over and over again, or if he's going to try to strike with you the whole matchup. So um, I'm not really anticipating what he's going to do. I'm just focused on myself, and I'm going to, I just plan on going in there and being the best that I can be, whether that's knocking him out or defending his takedowns and knocking him out. Either way, I'm be prepared for both.
Do you put any like added pressure to get a finish, especially after that last one, kind of how close it was and not getting that win?
I'm always looking for the finish. I mean, that's what I fight for, is to finish people. And I don't fight for the judges. I don't fight to try to win on the scorecards. I'm looking for a finish every single time. And in that fight, I was looking for a finish too. I just
Mhm.
couldn't get it. Bryan has a really, really hard head, come to find out. Actually hurt my hands a little bit. Um, but yeah, I don't put any added pressure on myself. That's just what I'm looking for. That's the pressure that I put on myself. Um, so I wouldn't call it added pressure. It's just a standard pressure.
This will be your 30th UFC fight as well. Like, is it pretty surreal to get to that number and like that many fights in the UFC?
I did not know that trivial fact either, but that's pretty cool, man. I certainly didn't see myself doing, having 30 fights when I got on the Ultimate Fighter and became an Ultimate Fighter, or I guess what you call them, or professional mixed martial artist in the UFC, contracted by UFC. This has just been a dream come true, and it's been a great ride. And I'm just one of the things I do now is I really just try to embrace the moment and enjoy every minute of it, because you just never know when it's going to end. And we see with the business of the UFC and with the there's changes every year, it seems like, right, with WME and now with WWE, and guys like Connor coming in the sport, and it's just evolving and changing all the time. So I know that it's not going to last forever. Um, so I just really want to embrace every single moment. Um, and that's why part of why I want to fight in front of fans so bad. That's why I'm happy that I'm fighting in front of fans. Like I want to go out and look at the fans, look at them in the eyes, shake their hands, you know, bump the knuckles on the way out to the octagon, and just enjoy every moment of it, man, and hopefully give them a night that they can remember.
It seemed like kind of Court and Carlos were like two of those like last guys you need to fight, or kind of that like OG kind of guys. Like, is there anyone else from like when you kind of were coming up that you still want to fight, or like would be interested in fighting? Like, I think obviously a Lawler rematch, I think a lot of fans would want to see, but like, is there a fight that like you still want to get before your career is up?
You know, ever since I ever started, I've never picked a single fight. I've never, you know, I've just never been that guy. Like, I love fighting. I love fighting. I love a man standing in the octagon across from me, and I'm gonna stay with that until the day that I die, man. That's what I like doing. I love the challenge. Every man's a new puzzle. So, you know, let's just keep going, man. Let's just keep fighting these sons of bitches. And again, it's about myself, man. It's not about them. It doesn't matter who they put across from me. So I don't necessarily have that. You know, I think in a perfect world, I'd go out there and smash this guy really well, and I wouldn't mind fighting, like, I don't know if I'd say like an up and comer, but like a younger, fresher guy. Like, I don't want to be that guy just out there fighting veterans because he's a veteran, and, you know, these guys that are older because he's older. Like, I want to be able to compete with the young guys, and I know that I can. And you know, I'm gonna have to show it, right? Like, the last young guy I fought was Miguel Beza, and he beat the fuck out of me. So um, I'm better than that, and I know that I am. So I got to go out there and prove it.
Just two more things is I know you got into like, well, not got in, but like, you've been doing like you've been helping a lot of these younger fighters out and like getting into coaching. Like, what's that been like for you now? Kind of like taking that next step where people are kind of relying on you for advice about how to handle their career.
Excuse me. Yes, I love doing that, man. I love coaching the guys, and it's so amazing watching them do things that you teach them. But honestly, even more than that, like teaching the kids, man, like that's probably more fulfilling than anything else I've ever done. But I do love teaching other fighters and stuff. I think I have a lot to offer them, and you know, like one of the things I'm working on right now is an online curriculum for fighters. You know, just an online training system, and you know, that's kind of where the world is headed. So that way I can reach a lot more people. I think that's part of what the evolution of a martial artist should be is, you know, you focus on yourself, you grow as a martial artist, you learn everything that you can, you gain all the knowledge and wisdom, you compete to test it and see where it's at and see what you need to improve on. And then when your time comes, you turn that knowledge around and give it back to the next generation. And that's the life cycle of a real martial artist. And that's what I'm following. So I'm getting closer to that point where, you know, I recognize that my career is not going to be too much longer. You know, I don't think I have another 10 years in me. Possibly, you never know. But, you know, I'm trying to build my skills on that side of, because one thing I found straight away when teaching and coaching other guys is it's a skill in itself too, right? Like, some guys don't have that skill. So I'm trying to build my skills right now in how do I give this to others properly and in a way that is understood and accepted.
Just final thing then, like sparring all health and everything, like what is kind of the goal then for you this year? Like, do you have a set amount of fights you want to have, or is it just kind of take it kind of day by day?
I'm gonna get through this fight, and that's how I've been the past. I don't know, maybe 5, 6 fights where, you know, well, ever since I came back from retirement when I fought Diego, I said I'm gonna do one fight at a time, and that's my goal. You know, I just want to get through this fight, and I'll reevaluate everything after, and we'll go from there.
Well, Matt, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely, thank you, brother.
All right, we're joined by UFC welterweight Alex Morono, who's back in action with a big fight on May 13th. Alex, how's it going, man?
Good, good. I'm just finishing a tough session, man. I had to go eat some lunch and get some liquids back in me. I was feeling it. It was a good one.
Obviously, I just quickly want to touch on the last one, like against Santiago. You took that like very short notice. You were winning that fight, like you had him hurt. Like, what do you take away from that one? That was just like one where you just happened to get caught, and when you were winning that whole fight.
Yeah, so dumb too. I remember even going into the third round, like thinking like this guy can't land shots. I got a little too comfortable. I was listening to coach, but then I was like, I got it. And it was just a silly mistake. Thankfully, I still got my win bonus. I got a new contract with a good little pay bump. So, like, it sucks. I mean, again, I would do anything. I would give that up to win the fight, to have the win on my record. But all the same, I was really happy. I was really happy to get 2 fights in last year. That would not have happened if I didn't take that fight. And man, I was just really grateful to compete. That was probably like the most fun I've ever had. With all the nerves and emotions making that walk. I mean, it makes me want to do it again. So I'm happy to get booked relatively soon.
And you did mention that you got your win bonus. Like, how nice was that? Where Dana and them kind of recognize your performance and helping them out, kind of taking it on short notice to give you that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a small chunk of change, and to just give it to someone, is awesome. It really is. So that would have been my 5th fight victory in a row, and it hurts, man. It hurts the soul when you don't get your win bonus. So the fact that I've had 5 win bonuses in a row, man, that makes a huge difference. It really does. So I'm looking to make that win bonus number 6 next month, and again, just very grateful. I've always been very grateful for the UFC and Dana White, but he was especially the homie on that one last year.
And then you get the offer to fight Tim Means. How exciting is that for you? This is another OG guy, a well-respected kind of veteran that everyone knows.
Yeah, I remember watching him fight in Legacy in Houston. He actually fought one of the prospects in Houston. The guy was 8-1 or 8-2 at the time. And whoever had won that fight was likely going to get signed to the UFC. And Means won the fight. He beat a guy who I really admired. And honestly, I've been rooting for him when he fights in the UFC. When he fought Doomsday Howard, knocked him out in the second, that was cool. I would always root for Tim Means for the most part. I just like the guy. I just respect the guy. And I always thought we'd get matched up, especially within the last 2 years, pretty much since COVID and on. I was waiting for his name to be in a contract. So yeah, it's a fun one, man. But nothing but respect for that dude. He's a true veteran. I mean, he's a vet. But I feel like I'm a vet too now, and I'm gonna hit that old line with some young wolf tactics.
What have you made of his last couple fights? 2-fight losing streak. His last fight was a split. I thought Max kind of clearly won that one, then lost to Kevin Holland. But before that, beat Nick Dalby, Mike Perry. Had some pretty good wins.
Yeah, he's not doing bad. He's not put a lot of big streaks together. But his fight with Max wasn't a bad fight. I definitely thought Max won that pretty clearly, even when they were reading the announcement. Tim, but Max won it. But and then the loss to Kevin Holland's no knock. Holland's a beast himself. But yeah, so I mean, he's still dangerous. He's still gritty. I feel like I'm catching him at a good time in his career, but I mean, dangerous as ever. Anytime I fight guys who I feel are dangerous, I always really prepare well and go in with the right mindset. So I always do best against what I feel is my toughest competition.
And what's it been like for you? For a while there, you were just kind of fighting these up and comers, and Anthony Pettis fight happened, and all of a sudden, you're fighting all these well-known kind of veterans. You rally off Pettis, Cowboy, Mickey Gall, Ponzinibbio, now Tim Means. You're getting all these kind of well-known guys.
Cool, good, yeah. Just as a martial artist, I it's really cool to be on the resume. It's cool to meet these dudes and share that time in the octagon. And honestly, man, I hope they give me vets until the vets retire. Then I'll fight the new guys because we'll all be around for a while. But yeah, the more veterans, the better. I like them more on the resume. And just in the martial arts journey, as a martial artist, especially as a coach, it's cool to know that your coach really went through the trenches and fought in the best of the best.
And then how big of a relief is it that you are on a fight night, but still in front of fans that is in Charlotte, not just at the Apex?
Man, so I did 5 Apex fights in a row, and I thought I liked it. I didn't care. But then when I fought Simmelsberger in Dallas, the fans were back. And I'll never forget, I was walking with a TDLR rep to go do a drug test. And so I was literally under the bleachers, and it was a long walk. And I had a really cool Amon Amarth song going, and the crowd had made some noise, and I got this big adrenaline rush. And I just missed that, man. Fighting in front of the fans with Pons was fun. I'm glad there's fans. I want the fans back. There's a certain energy about it. And, combat sports, they're made for viewers. It exists. The UFC exists because fans, demand it. I'm a fan myself, so I'm happy there's a crowd. I'm happy it's in the U.S., and I'm happy there's a crowd.
And then this is also an event on ABC. Does that mean anything for you to be able to fight on ABC?
Yeah, when I fought Simmelsberger,
Mhm.
from ABC as well, and I had a good performance then, so I was happy to get the views. Man, everyone said it's cool, but like, dude, I haven't had cable in like
Yeah.
6 years to just stream everything. And like beyond that, I don't even have a TV that I think gets local channels. All the same, I'm not complaining. Like that's a good stage. But no, I'm excited for that one. That'll be cool. It's a really good fight card too. Like the main heavyweights are good. That Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker's a fun fight. Matt Brown versus Court McGee's cool. D-Rod versus Ian Gary's cool. Carlos Orberg's fighting that Russian or European guy. I forget who. That's a fun fight. There's a bunch of welterweights on that card. I think Bryan Battle's fighting.
Yep. Gabe Green.
Gabe Green. I just like watching welterweights because I'm always eyeing who to fight. But yeah, it's a really fun card to be on, and I was enjoying sharing cards with other reputable martial artists. It always reminds me of Mortal Kombat, like going to the island to fight. I mean, it's just cool. It really is.
Do you think with all those welterweights, like you get past him, like you could be fighting one of those guys, like that many guys, like welterweights, kind of seems like your timeline to match up, where maybe they match a few guys up after this.
Yeah, man, I've asked to fight Matt Brown. I've asked to fight Ian Gary. Love to fight D-Rod. Really, any of those guys. I mean, especially anyone with some name value. In the game, like Matt Brown. Like I got nothing but love for that man, like respect for that man. But would love that fight. Just the same thing with any of the guys. Ian Gary's got a lot of steam behind him too. He's been doing well for himself. So yeah, I mean, it'll be cool, kind of scoping out the competition. And again, I couldn't imagine who I wouldn't fight. Like my goal when I got signed was 10 fights. Now it's 20 fights. This is fight number 18. So now it's 20 wins. So I'm looking at like 30, 40 fights in the UFC. And I just couldn't imagine, other than teammates, like who I wouldn't fight.
You're a pretty technical guy. I know you watch the sport a ton. So before we get more into your fight, that Ian Gary fight, are you surprised they're giving him D-Rod? Because it seemed like they were slow building him, and then him getting dropped by Song, who isn't up there and near that top 15 to go straight to D-Rod. I was pretty surprised by that booking.
Yeah, I thought the matchup was surprising. I was talking to my coach, my striking coach. I was like, D-Rod should freaking blaze through him, right? And he was like, yeah, sometimes D-Rod doesn't really show up all that well. You know what I mean? Like when he fought Madden, he didn't really show up. When he fought the Leech, he didn't really let it go. I think his hand was still busted in that fight. I just really But I mean, we'll see. This is a test for Ian Gary. I was hoping to be his test, but I mean, I'm not one to be upset about not getting fights. I'm not gonna hound the UFC to fight any one guy. I got no disrespect for any of these guys. I just wanted the challenge, and especially it's cool to kind of take some momentum from the guys.
With Tim, how do you think you match up against him? He's a guy that just likes to kind of stand there and throw down.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be standing and throwing down the whole fight. That's the plan. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's cool. Again, in my mind, he's a very dangerous fighter. And every time I've fought dangerous guys, I've always done really well because I don't take unnecessary risks and I prepare super hard. And so yeah, it's cool. This is Jax, by the way. This is named after Mortal Kombat.
With Tim, he's pretty hard to put away striking. As most of his submission losses are by submission. So is this a fight you kind of just have to expect to go the distance? He is a guy that can take a pretty good beating on the feet.
Yeah, it is. I think he may wrestle. I don't know. I mean, if there's a takedown there, I'll probably go for it. I don't know, man. I've said that every one of my fights. I usually don't wrestle too much. But this is just, man, he's a vet. I'm pretty sure he's a black belt. We're both pretty well-rounded. We both prefer to strike. I think it'll just be a fun fight. I have no expectations. For his game plan, I don't really have much of a game plan other than just kind of do my best, with just making my best decisions. So it's a fun fight. Even training at Fortis, I'm usually getting pounded on just by wrestlers and just pacing, but coaches really let me just kind of be free, and I got really good high level training partners. One guy, he's headlining a Fury card. His name is Julius Holmes. He'll be in the UFC, but he's a big physical southpaw. So he's been giving me some damn good rounds. But yeah, man, it's just been fun, and again, no expectations for this fight. Looking to just go in there and bang it out with the Dirty Bird.
Who are kind of the main guys you're working with at Fortis? I know Jeff obviously had his fight a month and a half ago. I'm not sure how much he's doing. Who are kind of the main guys you're working with?
It's cool. So Kennedy in Zekachu, he's fighting for me. So it's fun watching him spar with Span and all those guys. That's just Kennedy's maybe the nicest human being I've ever met on earth. But dude, I had him like pick me up on my head to decompress. He's so big and strong and awesome. So it's fun watching him do rounds. But yeah, there's a couple new guys on the team, some good wrestlers. Got him Kyle Crutchmer, he fights for Bellator, one of DC's guys, but he's good. And that Julius Holmes, a solid Remez, Brahima, he's coming. He had an injury that had to pull him out of a fight, but he's kind of getting back in the mix. And then Jeff, one of the best southpaws I can hope to work with. So man, I'm getting some really good training partners. And just for whatever reason, like there's an abundance of welterweights right now. So Carlos Diego Fierce fighting Michael Johnson. I got to give him some rounds. It was cool. I got to emulate Michael Johnson, which was cool. CDF's the man. Like if you've not seen his fights in the UFC, they're all very much so worth watching. But yeah, man, it's been a really good room, really good energy. Coach is doing his thing. It's been fun.
And CDF, like one of the nicest guys. Like when I'm like live like an hour north of Toronto, and when he was fighting in Toronto, like I was talking to him and Safe like a week before, and he's like, "Oh, you going to the fight?" I'm like, "No, me and my brother were gonna go. We couldn't get tickets." He's like, "All right, well, Carlos is just gonna leave you 2 tickets for you." So then me and my brother were able to go because of him, and like always one of the nicest guys in the whole sport.
Who did he fight in Toronto that night?
Kyle Nelson. That was that one where he had like 4 different opponents. He ended up having to like, and he got the second round win over him.
Okay, one of his earlier fights. Yeah. I mean, it sucks he lost this fight, but when his fight against Gregor Gillespie, that's the night I fought Cowboy.
Yeah.
The craziest 2 rounds of scrambling I've ever seen in my life, man. CDF's fun to train with, and he's just a fun guy to watch. It was cool because I was a huge fan of his, before I went to Fortis, and then I would go to Fortis and we get to train together, which is awesome. And he's even been by my gym in Houston. And man, I wish him all the best in the world, man. He's the coolest.
How do you kind of see this one playing out? Like, kind of just mentioned a couple of times, you don't have much expectations. Like, how do you see it playing out?
I kind of expect the fight to go everywhere. I could see us doing some grappling, doing some clinching, striking at range. Like, as much as I love getting finishes, in the UFC, I've not gotten that many, which is rough. It's funny, getting to the UFC, I was 11-3 with 10 finishes. And these dudes are just hard to put away. So I stopped like trying to force them. And like I have a goal to do damage. So I'm just going to try to like every time I touch him, just try to chip away and do as much damage as possible everywhere. And then if I can find the finish, great. But if not, just, get my octagon time and really just try to, get in there and take a few shots and give a lot of shots and call it a day.
I meant to ask this a bit ago, but we got sidetracked talking Diego. But like Kyle Crutchmer, how did that kind of come up to go to Fortis? Because I know he's one of like DC's guys. Like he was at AK for a while. Like I was surprised when I found out he left and went to Fortis. Like he seemed like one of DC's and like all those guys, close guys at AKA. Yeah,
Crutchmer's the man. I actually don't know too much on the change and everything, but he's been one of my main guys I've been working with. He's a really nice person, and he helps me with some wrestling details. I help him with some striking. It's cool, man. He's been one of my main guys when I've been up there, and he's a beast. And yeah, man, I got nothing but good things to say about him. But I'll ask. I'm actually curious myself. But I was very happy to hear, because I know that Nick Piccinini came through as well. Because I actually commentated some of his fights in Fury, and the dude's a beast. He fought some undefeated guy, like booked him. So they've been up there. It's been nice having such a high, like even more high level guys in a high level room. And so yeah, it's been cool.
I know when we've talked a bunch, like you've always said, like the belt doesn't really mean a whole lot for you. Like you'd rather see like guys like Jeff or some of your other teammates win the belt, but like getting this close on the rankings and fight these guys like Tim, like is that still the case, or is there this thought of like let's climb the rankings, kind of see how high we can get?
Man, I've always set immediate goals, like one fight, at a time. And like if I get into the rankings, then great. And then if I beat guys in the rankings, then great. But I'm not like banking on it. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to sit there and feel bad. Man, I'm telling you, I'm really a quantity guy. Not that I'm not a quality guy, but like I would rather fight 3 dudes out of the ranking in a year than 1 dude in the ranking. Because honestly, I'm getting paid the same. And like, I have no complaints with UFC. If there's any one thing I would change, it's I wish I could be a little more active. I wish they'd let me fight like every quarter, because my body holds up really well. Like durability arguably is the best factor for martial artists. And like I'm always training just because I think it's fun. I got a gym that I run, so even like I'm not like training hard, I'm still training. I'm always prepping like amateurs and like local pros for fights and guys doing submission only matches. There's a grappling games coming up. It's a tournament in like next Saturday. I think I have like 75 people from my gym signed up. Granted, like 40 or 50 of them are kids, but still, like we have a bunch of students at my gym. I have a bunch of students, and we're all in we're a very competition heavy gym, just because most guys try to follow kind of in my path. So we have guys doing kickboxing and MMA and in jiu-jitsu all the time, like a couple a month. So staying active is important, and I kind of wish they would let me fight a little more. So that's another big reason I don't really care about the rankings, because I don't want to pick and choose. I don't want to wait for fights to open up. It's give me a brand new guy, give me a veteran, give me a ranked guy. Doesn't really matter.
And then for you, what's it been like the past couple of years where you were just kind of a guy always grinding and not getting a whole bunch of fanfare, and now everything when I talk to Safe, you're getting paid really well, getting paid like a ranked guy, you're fighting these big names. It seems like everything's finally come together for you these past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, and granted, if let this be a lesson to anyone coming up the ranks, it didn't go without effort. I'm 7 years plus in the UFC. I'm coming up on 20 fights. I'm coming up on 30 plus fights as a pro. So, like anything, you just keep working hard, you keep sticking with it. And consistency is a hell of an attribute to success.
Just final thing, what is kind of the goal then for you this year? You beat Tim, is it just hoping to get some of these more known guys, or you open to kind of fighting whoever?
Yeah, the more value an opponent has, the better. Just in terms of their notoriety and even their style. I prefer fighting the strikers just because it's fun, strictly because it's more fun. I do more jiu-jitsu in a week than most people would think. It was cool yesterday. There was this tall, long southpaw. We did 13 rounds of sparring. And then while everyone was doing clinch work, I got this freaking jacked, good high school wrestler, went to state, and we wrestled for 10 minutes straight while everyone was clinching up. So I'll grapple all day long, but just fighting guys with certain styles, a rematch with Nico Price down the line, I would love a lot. Fighting Tim's a really cool matchup. There's a lot of good matchups out there.
Well, Alex, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, you got it, man.
All right, we're jumping UFC bantamweight Cody Stamann, who's back in action on May 13th. Cody, how's it going, man?
I'm good. Just getting ready to head to sparring. My face beat up a little bit.
Yeah. Already back in action, fought in Brazil in January. Are you pretty happy with this turnaround? Because for a while, you're having a tough time, getting these quick turnarounds.
Yeah. I mean, I was begging, right after the fight. I'm listen, I don't have a single injury. I could go again in 2 months. Let's do it. I want to chain things together. I feel like I'm better when I'm consistently fighting. And, that's kind of the thing. I 100% think I can get out of this one unscathed too and go again in the fall.
And then fighting Douglas Silva de Andrade, a pretty known veteran. Is this a guy you wanted, or were you kind of happy that it was a known guy compared to the last one?
Yeah, I would much rather fight somebody that I know, you know what I mean, that I can watch film on, that I have an understanding of kind of what I'm getting into. Do I think anybody really wants to fight Douglas Silva de Andrade? I don't think so. He's a wild card. He's a big, strong dude. Obviously, he's fought, some of the best guys in the sport at bantamweight, and he's done pretty well. So by no means an easy fight, but I fought literally the best guys in MMA currently. So I think Douglas de Andrade, I just think I'm better everywhere than he is.
And he's such a weird guy where that Morozov fight, I think kind of perfectly describes his career, where he was getting beat up badly. It looked like it was just a matter of time. And then all of a sudden he finishes Morozov in the very next round. It's just one of those guys that gets these crazy comebacks. With him, how hard is it to kind of really I don't really know how to frame it, but he gets hurt, but he recovers so well, and it's he's never truly out of it. It's how do you kind of deal with that?
I mean, he's a bull, right? He just keeps coming. You got to be a matador. I showed in my last fight I'm capable of doing that. I think I can do that again against de Andrade, with a little more offense in mind. But I think the number one thing with Douglas is just a willingness to be in a dogfight. You got to be willing to go in there and get in a dogfight. It's not gonna be pretty. He's gonna hit you because he throws just some weird, unorthodox stuff. And that's kind of the mentality I'm going into this fight, is that I'm gonna get in a dogfight with him. But I will be in better shape than Douglas, come fight night. I know that I'm more skilled than him in every aspect of this game, so, when we get into this dogfight, I don't really see an opportunity for him to do the things that he does, to win. I don't take those big shots that he lands.
Mhm.
I'm not there. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those guys that burns himself out in the first round and then is dead in the second round. You know what I mean? Like, I've watched enough film on him to know that if I hurt him, which I will, I'm not going to try to go for the kill. I got to be smart. You know what I mean? Conserve energy, fight in a smart way. If the opportunity presents itself to get the finish, I will. But I'm prepared for 15 minutes of hell with this motherfucker. Let's do it.
And then in another event for you in front of fans, how excited were you that it wasn't an Apex card, a pretty big one, on ABC in Charlotte, in front of fans? How kind of happy were you with that?
I was mainly happy that it was in the States. You know what I mean? Because you say in front of fans, my last experience with fans wasn't great.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I was getting spit on and drinks dumped on me as I'm walking out to fight. The fact that it's in the States is cool. I mean, I literally, because I heard it was Douglas DeAndrade, and I'm like, no, I'm not. They don't want me to go back to Brazil, do they? And the only thing I said was I'll fight anyone if I don't have to leave the U.S. I don't, if it's Douglas or whoever it is, I'm I will fight him. You got to tell me, because it was TBA when I signed the contract. Yeah. They didn't tell me where it was. So I'm listen, yeah, of course I'll fight him, but it has to be in the U.S. That was my only thing. I'll fight him or whoever, you know what I mean? And, I think Sean knows that. I'm pretty much going to say yes to anything that he throws in front of me. But I'm not doing the Brazil trip for a while.
Then just fighting, you've had such a weird career where you just got thrown right to the wolves right away. You look at who you fought, it's the champ and all the top guys right away, where it's almost seems backwards of your career, where these are the guys you should have been fighting in your first little run UFC. So does that give you confidence that you've already experienced fighting the best? These guys just kind of seem like a step down from what you've been fighting?
Yeah, I mean, every fight in the UFC is tough, right? Yeah. And I kind of came into the UFC with the attitude, you know what I mean? My ego was driving me, and I'm I can beat any motherfucker on the planet. Honest to God, I believe it then, I believe it now. But I didn't have the experience. I couldn't deal with all the other pressures that came with being in the UFC, that young. I got the Caraway fight popped up, and, it was my third UFC fight. I hadn't been in the UFC for a year yet. I'd been in the UFC for 6 months, and they're dude, you want to fight the number 7 guy in the world? And I'm just watching him fight, and I'm yeah, I want to fight him. I can beat this dude. And, so I did. And then right after that, I'm well, I literally just watched a ton of film on him and Aljamain Sterling fighting. I watched him whoop Aljamain Sterling. I just whooped him. I'm doing MMA math in my head. I'm I'm going to whoop Aljamain Sterling too. You know what I mean? Aljamain Sterling's got 10 fights in the UFC. I've got 3. You know what I mean? So my next fight is against the current champ, Aljamain Sterling. And at that point, I'd been in the UFC just over a year, So I'm fighting these guys green. I went from fighting guys on the regional scene that I was a 10-1 favorite against, fighting guys that, are the best fighters in the world. And I didn't think, you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking long-term. I wasn't thinking about my career 5 years down the road. I was thinking about I'm going to tear everyone's head off all the way to the top. And, I was just in this ego mindset. And now I look at it, I'm coming from a place of experience. You know what I mean? I fought the best. I've made the mistakes. I've let my ego drive the car around, and now I'm better. I mean, not better in terms of I still have the same athletic gifts. I think my tools are a little bit sharper. I have more ways to win now, but mentally, I'm better. Just mentally, you know what I mean? I've done it. I know the walk. I know the pressure. I know all the stuff. I know how to deal with it, and I don't see any reason why I can't get back to where I was. My first year in the UFC, and then beyond that, because at this point, I see all the really, really tough guys, and I just know there's a way that I can beat them. You know what I mean? I know that I have the physical gifts to do it. I have the work ethic, and now I have the experience and the mindset to do it too.
With Douglas, like we kind of talked about, like pretty durable dude. Like the only two guys to finish him are Rob Font and Peter Yan, who are obviously pretty good. It's like, how do you kind of see it playing out?
I can see this going a million ways. You know what I mean? Like, I'm either going to take him down and submit him, you know what I mean, which I think is a real possibility, or it's just going to be just an absolute war between him and I. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to fight him the same way I fought this last Brazilian. I know too much about him at this point. I know like kind of what he does, and you know, like I fought really, really safe against that kid in Brazil. You know, I did what I had to do to win. Just because I was going into enemy territory against someone that was fully unknown. I knew he was an insanely good grappler. I didn't want to end up on the mat with him. And I kind of stuck and move. And I can win fights like that. Against Douglas D'Andrade, like, I know that I can out-wrestle him. You know what I mean? I know that I'm faster than him on our feet. I know that I'll see the big shots coming. I think I can pick him apart for 15 minutes, or, you know, I can take him down and get him out of there, you know, early. We'll see. You know, I think the dude's pretty strong, you know, so I think I'm gonna have to kind of tame him a little bit before I, you know, put him away. But I don't see any reason why I can't finish Douglas D'Andrade.
Bantamweight division, like it's been moving. Like some big fights have kind of happened over this last little stretch, and obviously Cejudo Sterling's up in the, like what, a week before you. So like, what do you think a win over Douglas? Like, where do you think that kind of puts you in the division? Because you've been a guy ranked. Like, I think a win here, especially a stoppage win, has to get you a ranked guy next.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's like kind of what everyone wants, right? They want to fight ranked guys. I've fought a lot of ranked guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really feel the need to like prove myself against a ranked guy. I mean, in an ideal situation, I don't mess around fighting guys from 10 to 15. You know, like maybe after Douglas or maybe one more, we'll see, you know, how things play out. But I want to go straight to the top. Like, I want to go straight to the top 10. I don't want to mess around, you know, fighting the next best guy coming up. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I want to go after someone big and then someone big again. Like, I don't want to get in a position like, you know, I spent, you know, 3 years of my UFC career in like from like 10 to 15 ranking. And that just means that you are fighting like the next up and coming killer that wants to fight a ranked opponent all the time. You know what I mean? So it's like you're fighting a guy that, you know, maybe ranked, maybe not ranked, but, you know, has 6 wins in the UFC. You know what I mean? He's like 6-0 in the UFC. He's knocking everybody out. You got to go fight that guy. I would much rather fight someone established that's been around a long time, that's maybe, you know, a little long in the tooth that I can get a hold of. You know, we'll see. I think there's a lot of interesting matchups, and I'm going to be a lot smarter about it this time. I'm not just going to be like, yeah, anybody, let's go. You know what I mean? When I actually make that decision, like I'm going to the top of the mountain, I'll be selective. But right now, I mean, I'll fight anybody. You know, if it comes to a ranked opponent at some 10 to 15, I probably won't do it. But if it's someone in the top 10 next, count me in.
Just a couple more things. Is just talking about some of those big fights. Like, were you surprised that Merab beat Jan, and then like, were you like, and then add to that, like, were you surprised how one-sided it was? Because like, I actually thought Jan was gonna win, like, because he showed off a good takedown even against Aljamain. And I thought on the feet, like, he's miles better than Merab. Like, I was just surprised at how like easily Merab was able to dominate that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in there with Merab, and like his timing on his takedowns is tremendous. Like, he has the fastest shot. I have really good takedown defense, and like when he took me down, he was on my legs before I even knew what was going on. Like, his level changes are so fast. So I knew this was going to be a terrible fight for Jan. What really impressed me about Merab was how willing to stand right in front of Peter Yan he was. You know what I mean? I really think that's kind of what threw Peter Yan off. Jan thought that he was going to dance around. Jan was going to kind of dictate how the fight went. And Merab just like took it to him. And I mean, he showed chinks in Peter Yan's armor. Like, Peter Yan doesn't fight well backing up. You know, and that's exactly what he did. He backed him up, level change. And like the pace that guy can put on, like, I don't know anybody that, I mean, I know him and Aljamain obviously aren't going to fight, but like, I fought them both. I would much rather fight Aljamain than Merab, you know, I mean, because like, I know that neither one of them are really like super dangerous on their feet, but the fact that Merab can like put the pedal down and push you to places that you don't really want to go early in a fight. I mean, it's a terrifying prospect. You know what I mean? And like Aljamain, you kind of know what you're getting. You know what I mean? The guy's not. He's going to kind of point fight you on his feet and look for takedowns, try to take your back. But Merab is kind of a wild card. Like his stand-up's getting better. You know, he was hurting Peter Yan with shots, and I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I mean, obviously that fight surprised the shit out of me, but more so, you know, it surprised me that Merab wasn't calling for like a title shot right away. You know what I mean? I get it; they're really, really good friends, but dude, you might miss your shot if you don't jump on it right now.
Yeah, that's something like I've talked to quite a few people with, like Mario Bautista, who's like a bantamweight, is like really good friends with O'Malley, and he's like those two have already like have an agreement. Like if one of them hold the belt and the other one's the number one guy, like they're gonna have to fight, even like they're that close friends. Because like being such good friends, you don't want to kind of hold your friend back from like ever becoming a champ, and like who knows that maybe Marab doesn't get it. Like I know you're good friends with a lot of guys. Like is that the same thing with you? Like the only way you'd really fight one of your close friends is if it is for the belt.
If there was like no other option, right? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys in the gym at Extreme, guys that I've trained with, and a lot of times it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It's not even so much the fight; it's all your coaches and all your friends are mutual. You know what I mean? So you're putting everyone that you work with in a really uncomfortable position because now they got to pick sides. But if it's for the belt and it's for money, like that's what we're here for. You know, like let's do it. Yeah, I like that. I actually like that agreement that O'Malley and Batista had. That's actually really smart. You know, and you know, ultimately, like if Eljo was that good of a friend, he would have been like, "Hey, dude, we need to, you know, create a little distance between us because I think this is probably next, and like you deserve it." You know, the fact that he didn't kind of makes me a little more weary about that friendship.
And the fact like both of them have trained out in Vegas, like one of them can just make Extreme home, one of them just stays on Long Island with like Longo and those guys. But like just two more things is obviously Rob Font got a big win over Adrian. I don't know like if a lot of people remember like you two were booked to fight each other. Like, is that a fight you think just like still kind of has to happen at some point?
Yeah. And the reason it has to happen is because I really banged my shoulder up, you know, in preparation. And Rob went on and like said a bunch of shit, like basically that this fight was never going to happen. I never wanted to fight him. It's like, motherfucker, I signed the contract. I literally flew to Colorado and like trained to elevation, spent all this money, and then got hurt 2 weeks before the fight. Like, do you really think that was like what I wanted to do? And then, you know, karma got back to him because, you know, he's dealing with all kinds of health issues now. But yeah, I mean, Font is a guy that I 100% would relish fighting. I think, you know, regardless of what he did against Yanez, I think Font his chin is gone. Every single time I see that guy get touched, he's wobbling and he's like trying to catch his balance. Like I really don't think Font has too many shots left to his head. So yeah, I mean, if that opportunity came up after Douglas, I would jump on it for sure.
Just final thing, then kind of building off that, like, what is the goal then for you this year? Like I asked that in January, but fighting this early, it kind of can set you up to have an even bigger year than I imagine what you thought.
Yeah. I mean, money. That's the goal this year. You know what I mean? Make a bunch of money and fight as much as I can. You know what I mean? Stay healthy and fight. You know, whether it's you know, in the top 10, whether it's anybody. You know what I mean? Like I'm 100% willing to do it. Like I said, I just want to stay healthy and just keep chipping away at this. That way, you know, the end of this year, the beginning of next year, I'm setting myself up for, you know, some bigger fights a little bit, you know, kind of where I saw myself in the beginning of my UFC career. You know, that's like, that never weighed. I was never like, oh man, I just dropped a bunch of fights and now like, I'm never going to get there again. Like, I know that I have the skills to do it. Like I will be back where I was or higher, within a year.
Well, Cody, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this again.
Of course, brother. Have a good one.
Yeah. All right, we're joined by UFC welterweight Gabe Green, who's back in action on May 13th. Gabe, how's it going, man?
And alive, breathing. You know, it's plenty to be happy about. So things are going good.
Obviously, you haven't fought since last July. Like a lot longer of a layoff than what I imagine what you thought was going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I got I got hurt. Had to take some time off, and then yeah, I actually right after the fight, I was like, let me get a little beef here, and I upped my strength regimen, and then uh, did that and was feeling great, looking for a fight, and then yeah, and then I got hurt, so it takes some time off, but yeah, feeling great now and ready to rock.
What do you take away from that fight against Ian Gary?
Um, I don't think I performed to the best of my abilities. I didn't show up and was my best self that day. I totally think that the fight was a winnable fight on my end. I just didn't do what I was supposed to do, and not to take anything away from Ian Gary. He's good. He moves around well, and even like listens to his corners really well during the fight. He was actually crazy thing. Every time I backed him up to the cage, like a lot of the times it was near his corner, and so when I was engaging right there, and we did enter in a little bit of grappling, uh, a little grappling exchanges. His corners are right there, trying like able to like talk him through and counter what I was doing, and like they would say a counter, and he would do it like as I was doing whatever I was doing. Really smart by them. I was like, huh, like I ain't never thought about like backing up into my own corner. That's like really smart of them. But yeah, I could have done some things better, and I didn't. So there's that. Like I before this, I wanted to run my fight back with D-Rod, and I still do because that was like 3 years ago. So hopefully I get to run that one back, and then eventually I get to run this one back with Ian Gary.
Before getting your fight, like obviously you just mentioned those two guys. Are you surprised they're booking Ian Gary against D-Rod? Like I thought they were slow building Gary, and I think that's a pretty tough fight for him.
No, I mean the UFC just be doing what the UFC does, nothing's really out of the question. So I mean I think it's cool. Same card as me too. I'll be able to see him walking around like, what's up, dudes? Looking forward to see what happens in that fight.
You fought both of them. Like who do you think wins that one then?
Yeah, I don't know. Depends on because like I mean, you even saw that last fight, Ian Gary got caught with that left hand. And D-Rod, he hits hard. So if D-Rod catches him, it could be nice, like lights out. But is D-Rod gonna actually be able to catch that? Because Ian Gary does just move around a lot and really good with the lateral movement, and so that's gonna be the question. And because of that, like, is Ian Gary going to be smart and be on his bike, or is he going to come forward and try to just bang with a guy that likes to bang? It's gonna be interesting to watch.
And then with this one, like obviously you're supposed to fight Jake Matthews. When he gets hurt, like was there a thought of let's just wait to get rebooked with him, or was it just like I got to fight and I just get me some opponent?
I mean, Matthews is super cool. He actually messaged me personally and told me that he got hurt and he was gonna not be able to fight me. But he had mentioned that he doesn't even know like to the extent of his injury exactly. He just knows that he can't train at the moment. So I didn't want to just be waiting around on the sideline for a very long time, possibly because I didn't know how bad it was messed up. So when he told me that, I was like, oh, good. I shot him some prayers. I told him I was going to pray for him. And then, we don't know now you're getting hurt and stuff like that. And then, yeah, just told the UFC. So who's next? I've been waiting right here for a fight. Just give me somebody.
And then Bryan Battle steps in. Like, how familiar were you with him? Like, obviously one tough at middleweight, but I think he's just 1-1 since dropping down to welterweight.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched a couple of his fights live when they happened. I didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter that season, so I wasn't super familiar with him. But I had seen him fight watched a couple more of his fights now, doing my little research. But I mean, I think it's gonna be a fun fight.
And then you are going into kind of his hometown, like he trains and lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. Like, are you going to be excited for that? Because obviously, imagine I think the crowd's going to be booing you then.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes with the territory sometimes, I haven't really had to experience that on the UFC's caliber stage, but I'm not really worried about it. I got a good 15 or so people flying out there to watch me fight that I know are very, very close to me. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a home fight still because my home's there with me.
Back in front of fans as well. Like, how grateful are you for that, where they're not sending you back to the Apex and you get on one of these rare fight nights in front of a crowd?
No, yeah, amazing. I love being out there in front of people, regardless of hearing the cheers or boos or whatever. It just feels good to be out in front of people and performing what I love to do.
And then with Bryan, like he's obviously middleweight, dropping down to welterweight. I know you fought at lightweight in the past. You just mentioned though that you've been working on adding size. Like, do you think there is going to be a big size difference between you two?
I don't know. We'll see. I know he's taller than me, but as far as like the strength and like that kind of size difference, we'll have to see when we get inside there. I mean, yeah, I am a little bit of a smaller welterweight. I'd imagine he'd probably be a bigger welterweight if he used to fight at middle, So I mean, I really like fighting bigger guys, though. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's annoying sometimes, but just like the face-offs when I have to look up at them and they're looking down at me. It really reminds me of a David and Goliath moment, and I don't know. I just love it.
How do you think you match up against Bryan? Because to me, both you guys are very good strikers. I think both you guys would prefer to keep it standings. How do you kind of see it playing? Or how do you think you match up against him?
No, yeah, I think we're gonna go out there and we're just gonna let the leather go, and see what happens from there. I don't really believe in game plans too much exactly because it's like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. So, I just go out there and take what I can get, and then we'll see what happens. But it's probably going to be a little bit more of a stand-up fight, and yeah, I think it's going to be fun for everyone to watch.
And Bryan is a pretty durable dude. Went the distance on short notice against Renat, who dominated him for all 3 rounds. How do you kind of see it playing out? Because he is a pretty tough guy to put out.
I mean, only God knows, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna throw. I'm gonna keep it on him. I've knocked out guys that have never been knocked out before and have been considered durable. So I mean, we'll see.
How much pressure, if any at all, is on you this one? Coming off a loss, a bit of a layoff, you never want to lose two in a row in the UFC. Is there a lot of pressure, or do you not really think about that?
I mean, is there pressure? I guess, technically, but I'm not really concerned with anything. If something's don't get me wrong, I'm going out there and I'm gonna leave every bit of ounce of my being inside that cage. And I'm doing everything I can leading up to the fight, but I just leave it all in God's hands. If I'm meant to win that night, I'm going to win that night. If it's not His will for me to win that night, it's not His will to win that night, and that's what it is, So, it's already been decided. I just got to go out there and do my best, and then figure out what happens whenever else figure out. So what happens.
With this one, I know most UFC contracts run 4 fights. You've already had 4 fights. Is this a brand new deal for you then, or was the last fight the start of a new contract for you?
Yeah, the last one was a start of a new deal. So I'm in the middle of my next contract.
What do you think a win over Bryan does for you? You look at the guys you fought, it's a lot of top guys. Phil Rowe's been on a very nice run. You fought D-Rod, you fought Ian Gary. So they're obviously putting you up against guys that are kind of right near those rankings anyways. And especially Jake. Jake was a guy, I think he was maybe in the welterweight ranks. He was close to it. What do you think a win does for you here in this division?
I think it boosts me up, still. Brian Battle's a lot more known than I am, so small little climbs up the ladder. It just boosts me up a little bit more, makes me a little bit more of a household name, and I mean that's all I really want. Just keep on making my way up, slowly but surely.
Are you hopeful that maybe you get past Bryan, you can just rebook that Jake fight for next time out then?
I mean, if that's what the UFC wants, then I'm down. If that's what God's plans are, then I'm down. I'm just out here just trying to be like an instrument of will for the Lord, just chilling. Let me know what happens. I'll be there. I'll be ready, and then we can make things happen.
I know you want the rematch with both Gary and D-Rod. Like, I actually think there's a better chance you get it with D-Rod if Gary wins, because I think if Gary loses, like, I think they'd like try to find someone lower in the rankings for him to kind of build up. But if D-Rod loses, like, he's kind of a vet. Like, UFC took that fight on short notice, and if you beat Bryan, then kind of the timelines obviously match. Like, do you agree with that, or do you think like you could get a rematch with both those guys, win or lose next time out?
I think that yeah, you're right. I think that if D-Rod loses, I have a better chance of getting a rematch with D-Rod sooner than later. He actually agreed because I when Matthews got hurt and I was just sitting down, going like, well, who's next? And the UFC didn't offer anybody, so I just took a shot in the dark and I tagged D-Rod in a picture and was like, you trying to fight me May 13th? Because I don't got to fight. And I helped you out 3 years ago. And he said, yeah, it was the UFC that wanted him to fight someone else. So I know he's down for it, personally. I don't know if Ian Gary's down to fight me again. So that's like a whole other, question. So I mean, yeah, if D-Rod loses and he wants to fight me still, I think the UFC is more likely to make that one happen. I think I would have to, if Ian Gary wins, we probably won't fight again for a minute until we both get, a little higher in the organization.
Just two more things. If you could only get one of those fights back, like Gary or D-Rod, like which one would you prefer to get a rematch?
It'd probably be D-Rod because, like, don't be wrong, I don't think I performed my best on either of them, but I actually had a slight camp for Ian Gary. I had 4 days off the couch and I hadn't trained for 2 years when I fought D-Rod, so it was very, 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 very different me. So yeah, I'd like the D-Rod one a little bit more.
And then just final thing, like what is kind of the goal then for you this year?
I'm just gonna try to stay active, man. I always try to stay active. Sometimes God has other plans for me and sidelines me with injuries and this and that. But I mean, I train hard all year round, unless I get hurt, So the problem is like the lack of me getting a fight, quicker than later, because I'm going to be training really, really hard. And when you're training hard, accidents happen. So, yeah, hopefully I can get one right away when I'm still, in good health versus when it starts being like a couple months of me just going hard. It's hard to stay healthy because I'm hitting it. Either that or I got to learn to take a day off here or there so my body actually recovers a little bit.
Well, Gabe, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this again.
Of course, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we're joined by UFC welterweight Bryan Battle, who's returning on May 13th. But Bryan, how's it going, man?
It's going so well, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking about a fight. Happy to be getting ready for a fight. You know what I'm saying? So, life is good.
Just before we get into this one, I quickly want to touch on the last one. Like, obviously took it on short notice, like first UFC loss. Like, what do you kind of take away from that? Because you took on a very tough guy that not many people were wanting to fight, and you did it on short notice.
Man, I tell you, I learned a lot from that fight. I learned I'm not a Superman, because not only was that fight on short notice, we took it on 17 days. About 10 days out from the fight, I took a pretty debilitating injury, You know what I'm saying? We didn't let anyone know about it. And that made things that was probably the biggest factor of why I looked tragic during the fight. But then also something a lot of people don't know is I was in the hospital the day before because I got really sick the week of, you know what I'm saying? So there was all this stuff. You know, when you're fighting, there's always obstacles. You never walk in 100%. You know what I'm saying? You always got to overcome obstacles. And this time, I just didn't have what it takes to overcome all those obstacles. You know, to get past those hurdles and then have to fight someone like Renat. You know what I'm saying? That dude's a monster. You know what I'm saying? And credit to him, even if like I would need all those obstacles I just talked about removed, and even if those are removed, I'm not saying I beat Renat because that's how good he is. You know what I'm saying? He's a really tough dude. I really respect him. I can't wait to fight him again. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the biggest thing. Talking about in the cage, I talked about all the stuff outside the cage. In the cage, I got pretty complacent with my takedown defense because I just felt so comfortable being able to stand back up and being able to work off my back. The injury I took made it really hard for me to get back up, especially as how I would need to against someone like Renat. And his top game, with where my current submission grappling level is at, his top game kind of smothered all that a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I had a couple of close calls, but Renat's a really, really, really tough dude, and I really would love to fight him with 6 to 8 weeks to prepare for him coming in healthy. You know what I'm saying? I've been working on my takedown defense. I've been just working on being stingy and everything like that. I think that fight could look a lot different if we fight again. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, Renat doesn't lose for a long time, and we can either run that back soon or down the line. But I learned a lot from that fight. I'm a much better fighter because of that fight, and I can't wait to get back in there on May 13th and show off for people.
Obviously, Gabe Green was supposed to fight Jake Matthews. Jake pulls out. Like, how did you kind of get in here? Like, I technically is a short notice fight, but I know you did have like quite a lot more notice than obviously the last one. But like, how did you kind of find out that Jake was out and you were getting this fight?
Man, I tell you, Instagram's crazy, man. That's how I basically got my last 2 fights. With Renat, a random fan tagged me in a post where it said that Renat's opponent dropped out. I messaged my agent, Jason House, best agent in the game, made it happen. And then this fight, I had a teammate send me a post about Jake Matthews dropping out. I messaged Jason again. I was like, "Oh, what's up with Gabe Green?" He was like, "You want that fight?" And I was like, "I would love that fight." And so that's kind of, and like you said, like 6 weeks, that's not really short notice to me. I mean, I always stay kind of in fight shape. You know what I'm saying? I'm never really more than 2 to 3 weeks out from being ready to fight. You know what I'm saying? We're always doing rounds. We're always getting work. You know what I'm saying? So, 6 weeks, that's a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? That's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? It kind of came together. The fight fell apart. I saw an Instagram post, messaged my agent. You know what I'm saying? Now we're rolling, baby. You know what I'm saying? And it's in Charlotte. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was literally my next question. Like, cards on ABC in front of fans, which obviously the past couple, I think, or all of them for you have been at the Apex. You haven't even got to experience a UFC crowd yet. It's like, how excited are you that it's in Charlotte, obviously close to home, in front of fans, and obviously this big stage on ABC?
Man, I tell you, it's going to be, once again, there's just like a couple things you said right there. Like, it's been since I haven't fought in Charlotte since 2018. You know what I'm saying? That was a great experience, forever ago. I haven't fought in front of a real crowd since 2019. You know what I'm saying? Right before COVID hit. Since COVID, I've been fighting in front of COVID crowds, and then I've been fighting at the Apex. So I haven't fought in front of a real crowd in a minute. So that's gonna be crazy, just in and of itself, feeling the energy of a whole place full of people. But then on top of that, it's my people. You know what I'm saying? It's my people, my family, my friends, my teammates, the people in the area, the MMA fans who support me because I represent Charlotte is going to be tremendous. You know what I'm saying? When Dreams and Nightmares comes off and my name is on the big screen and I'm walking out, I'm expecting the energy to be through the roof, So that it's a dream come true. You know what I'm saying? This is what, because UFC is a global sport. You know what I'm saying? You don't ever hardly expect, unless you're like a champ and you have that kind of pool to get them to come to your house. You know what I'm saying? It's not something you hold your breath waiting for. So for that to materialize, for that to actually happen, I couldn't be more grateful.
With Gabe, like coming off that loss to Ian Gary, like 2-2 in the UFC, like he has shown some good, like obviously striking and has put up some good fights. Like got a close fight against D-Rods. Like, what have you kind of made of his UFC run so far?
Dude, I mean, well, like you said, you just said some big names. First thing, he's never been finished. He's 2-2. But he's a really tough, really durable guy, really good cardio. Like you said, he's pretty aggressive. And he's getting better. You know what I'm saying? Like that's probably one of the biggest things I noticed from watching his fight to fight is I'm seeing him growing each fight just a little bit. So that's one of those funny things where now, I'm getting ready for him, and I'm not trying to get too caught up in the film because, like I said, it's been a minute since him and Gary fought each other. So I'm assuming that he's gotten a lot better in that time. You know what I'm saying? That he's made some real leaps in his game. The crazy thing is that for me, the last time people saw me have an extended outing where I was, clicking on all cylinders was against Trey Sean. That was over a year ago. So, we're both going to come into this, we're going to be more or less the same people, but, we should come in dramatically better fighters ready to put on the show. You know what I mean?
And then with Gabe, like both you guys are primarily strikers. Like, how do you match up against him then?
I think my striking's better than his. You know what I'm saying? Like, not to beat around the bush. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect, but I think I'm longer. Speed. We're in the same ballpark. He's a really good guy. He throws really dangerous, hard punches and everything like that. But I present a lot of problems, not just for him, but for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, everyone shoots on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't had a fight where, even if someone came in as a striker, they're still shooting. You know what I'm saying? The only fight that I've had in the UFC where I didn't get shot on was Takashi. You saw how that went. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if it stays on the feet, I could really see him trying to, especially after, my last fight, trying to take me down. Because, you see him trying to get in on Ian Gary, try to work that clinch up against the cage a little bit. I could see him trying to do some of that against me, especially after we have a couple exchanges. But, like I said, we'll see what he's been working on. We'll see what he's been cooking up in the kitchen. And I can't wait to show off what I've been working on, what I've been cooking up in the kitchen.
And then, is there any more like added pressure fighting so close to home? Like, obviously, there's going to be a ton of friends and family in the arena, I imagine, for you. Like, does that add any pressure? Does that kind of add some motivation for you?
Yeah, man, that's just a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just a fight. You know what I mean? This isn't a title fight. This isn't a number one contenders fight. This isn't a fight to get into the rankings or anything. Like, this is a fight. You know what I'm saying? This is what I do all the time. You know what I mean? That's how I've always approached it. And so, the fact that, people are going to be there and in the audience, and they're going to be there physically, and they're going to be present in the moment. To me, that's just, I can't wait to feel that energy. But as far as them watching me, I mean, it's no different than what they normally do. Everyone's always watching me. They're just watching it on their TV. Now we get to experience this together. You know what I'm saying? So I am just through the roof, and I'm ready to go. So pressure, I'm sure, as the fight comes up, I'll feel more and more pressure, but that's just fight pressure. You know what I'm saying? The fact that I'm fighting in front of my people, it's kind of like one of those things where, you can't complain about, having too much on your plate. If you said you were hungry, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is just a blessing to me to be able to fight in front of my people, because who knows when I'm going to be able to do it again.
Like we kind of talked about, like, Ian Gary and D-Rod both took Gabe the distance. Like, the only time he was finished when he fought at lightweight, which I think was probably a big part of just the weight cut. And
I think he fought Tarantula too.
Yeah, he fought Jalen Turner, and like I think a big part of that was because the weight cut. Like, he's a he looks like a pretty big welterweight. So like, how do you kind of see this playing out? Because obviously Gabe is a pretty durable dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say I don't think he's that big of a welterweight. He's a welterweight coming up from lightweight. I'm a welterweight coming down from middleweight. So the size is not really something I'm super concerned about. I've trained with big dudes. I've trained with strong dudes. I fought big dudes. I fought strong dudes. Like size and strength, that is what it is. I'm more looking at, how you're fighting, your pressure, your pace, you know what I'm saying? Your fight IQ, all those things. Those things really matter more to me. And I think I'm just a step ahead in all those areas. You know what I'm saying? Gabe could prove me wrong, but, it's just every area of the game, I feel like I got something for him. You know what I mean? Like if it does go to the ground, I got something for him on the ground. We hit the cage, I got something for him on the cage. You know what I'm saying? If it stays on the feet the whole time, which like I said, I doubt that he doesn't take a shot at some point in this fight. You know what I mean? No matter where it goes, I got something for him. So, I won't say I'm not concerned, but I'm preparing for it. So it's like my level of concern is high enough that I'm preparing for everything, but I'm not worried about anything.
You get past Gabe, like where do you think that puts your division? Like 2 guys beat him, are fighting each other. I probably think winner of that gets like a rank guy. So like you look at the guys that beat him, both of them are kind of right near those rankings.
If I beat Gabe, I think that winning's always good. I think it really matters more how I win. You know what I'm saying? If I win in dominant fashion, then I'm right where Ian was after he beat him. You know what I'm saying? If I finish him, I think that elevates me a little bit more. Just because, like you said, he has fought everyone he's fought in the UFC could be considered a finisher. You know what I'm saying? I mean, D-Rod. Actually, I don't know how many finishes D-Rod has, but I know D-Rod, he's nice with the hands. Phil Rowe, you know what I'm saying? Phil Rowe, he's able to finish people on the ground and on the feet. You know what I'm saying? The Canadian gentleman, I have trouble with his name, but he's he's known for being a finisher, and almost had Gabe finish, but Gabe bounced back. More power to him. And then Ian, obviously Ian, he's a little bit of a knockout artist, and he couldn't get him out of there. So I think bottom line is a win is a win is a win. You win, you move up, you lose, you go down. But how I win is important. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking to come out and put on a show. I have a little magic going on in there.
And then just final thing, like what is kind of the goal then for you this year? Because like, and especially like you're a guy that's called his shots in the past. Like you called out Ian Gary, you called out Barberina, like, and then like, so you're not afraid of that, but like, what is kind of the goal then for you this year?
The goal, I mean, bottom line, the goal is to smash everyone they put in front of me. You know what I'm saying? It's so tough. Because, even like you can say you want rankings, but even the guys outside the rankings, there's not a whole lot of difference between a lot of the guys outside the rankings and guys inside the rankings. I'd like to have this fight and 2 more fights before the end of the year. I want to have 3 fights, and I want to progressively move up in competition each one of those fights. You know what I'm saying? If I get to have a rematch with Renat, that would be tremendous. I would love to have a rematch with Renat, but with all that being said, this year from where I'm at right now, I just want to win fights. You know what I'm saying? After I win some more fights and I have more of a bearing on where that puts me in the pecking order, then because I'll fight any of these guys. You know what I'm saying? I'll fight ranked, top 10, unranked. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty confident with what I bring to the table and how much I've grown as a martial artist. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, I'm also aware of, you have to earn that stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's just that, that stuff just doesn't happen. So, I'll go out there and show off what I can do. And, the UFC can evaluate that, and whoever they give me, I'll put them away, and then we'll keep on going.
Well, Bryan, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this again.
Hey, appreciate you, brother.
All right, thanks so much.
All right, hey man. Thank you for talking to me. Hey, we'll talk again soon after I beat this guy up.